I'm the Incident, and this is my obligatory gear video. Seems like people want to know what I'm putting in my pack, how much it's going to weigh, and all that kind of stuff. That's all going to change. You get out on the trail, you like certain stuff, you don't like stuff. It's colder, it's hotter, it's rainier, whatever. You find some new gear, it'll change. But for now, this is what I plan to do. So let's get started. Let's start with what's in my pack. These are not going to be in my pack. They're going to be on my hands at all times, except for if I'm climbing some rough stuff. I might take them off, I might throw them ahead and whatnot, but I may do a separate video about poles. In my mind, they're necessary. So let's get to what's in the pack. I've been using this Osprey 8th or 70 liter pack. I've had it for a number of years. I've got, I don't know, at least 1,000 miles on it, maybe some more. And for all you UL people out there, ultralight people, I know that there are a lot of lighter packs out there. I'm starting with about 6 pounds of weight before I put anything in my pack. But man, this thing is comfortable. It floats on my back, holds plenty of gear. I love the way it's set up. Yeah, there's a few too many straps and some things like that. And the brain, didn't really need that. But I do love the pack. It's very durable. It's a great company. They stand behind their products. And like I say, its primary feature is it's comfortable. I can load it up and it feels great. So let's see what's in it. One of my rules is that everything goes in the pack. Nothing hangs off the outside. I don't like dangly things. They get caught on things, they fall off, they're lost, you got to hike back and get them, or they're gone forever. So everything's inside the pack. Doesn't necessarily mean what goes totally inside the main compartment of the pack. I like to keep my tent, my poles, stakes, if I'm using them, if I'm bringing it. It's a self-standing tent, which I'll get to later. And I also use this Tyvek sheet as a ground cloth cover. It's a little extra weight, don't really need it, but it's awfully nice to keep the pokey things from coming through the bottom of the tent, which prevents floor leaks. But it also, more importantly, is one layer of protection for my inflatable pad. So let's see what's inside. Another characteristic of the way I like to pack my pack is I like to have things in bags. Not super tight, not super compartmentalized. I'm not real rigid about it, but it's nice to have things organized in there, so when you know, hey, I got to go get my blue bag because that's where my gear is going to be, or I pull out my yellow dry bag. This is a waterproof dry bag. Oh yeah, that's my spare clothes. This also doubles as my pillow. I stuff my clothes that I'm not wearing at night in here, and that's my pillow. I tried inflatable pillows. I've got one. It's okay. I found that it would escape during the night. Also, I'd be I'm a side sleeper, so I get a crick in my neck and I wake up and go, where's that thing? Oh, it slid out of my sleeping bag and it's off in the corner somewhere. This seems to fit into the hood of my sleeping bag real well, stays put, kind of makes a little indentation where my head goes, so my head stays on it. It's a good way to carry my clothes. Also keeps them dry. And I noticed when I was packing up just now, I had a pair of socks that didn't quite get into my clothes bag, so they will normally go in there. I also use a larger dry bag, and yeah, these are extra weight, but you know what? I don't want my sleeping kit wet, so I'll keep it rolled up. And I also have a pack cover that I wear, and I know some people think those are unnecessary, but man, anything I do to keep my gear dry, it just makes for so much more pleasant hike. I don't mind those extra few ounces if I know I'm going to be that much more dry, because if this pack starts to get soaked, which they do, or the stuff in it, water gets around, starts to leak in there, that's some real weight right there. So I'd really rather have a dry pack and have a pack cover that I can just shake off and dry and roll up and stuff in an outer pocket. So this is the main core of my stuff. Let's see if I got anything else in there. Oh yeah. Also got my Nemo inflatable pad. It's a little bit bigger, it's a little extra wide and a little extra long, because I'm a little extra wide and a little extra long. But man, that comfort, that's what you're after. You spend about 1/3 of any backpacking trip in your tent, maybe more in bad weather, and it's nice to have something big enough to lie on. I've tried some other Thermarest ultralight pads, and they're so crinkly. I've had tent mates or even people in the next tent complain that, what are you, sleeping on a bag of potato chips or something? So, but this thing, it's nice and quiet, it's comfortable, and it's big enough that I can lie on my side, roll over, switch sides, and not be falling off. The other ones, the narrow ones, I'd find that, my knees, if I crunched up my knees a little bit, the knees would be off or my feet would be off and they would start to get cold. So extra wide Nemo. Yeah, it's heavier, yeah, it's bulkier, but you know, it's a big pack. There's plenty of room in there. I don't need a lot of extra stuff. This bag is my night bag. I like to keep everything for nighttime in here just to make sure it's dry. If the day goes bad, if everything's nasty and wet and cold, at least I know my gear is going to be dry for the first night. Anyways, who knows what happens during the night or the next day. You know, after 4 or 5 days of constant rain, pretty much everything you can count on is going to be a little bit damp, if not sopping wet. And that's a good time to get off the trail and hang up your stuff and dry it out someplace indoors. But in here, I keep my puffy in there. I do have a stuff sack that stuffs up real small. I generally don't like to carry my puffy all compressed because I like my down to be fluffy and warm when I want to wear it. I don't want to have to wait a while for it to puff out. So puffy goes in there. That's again my night gear. And I always sleep in long johns. Just to develop this habit, I don't know where and when, but keeps me warm, keeps my skin off the inside of the sleeping bag, or if I've got using my sleeping bag like a quilt, keeps it off the pad. I just find it to be really comfortable, and if it's a little too warm, then I either don't use my sleeping bag at all, or I lay it next to me, or I lay it on top of me like a quilt. But it's nice having this comfort layer right there. It also keeps the bugs, if any bugs get in the tent and whatnot, keeps them from a little bit protection of them crawling on me and stinging me, or etc. I also keep some of my warm gear in here. This is my night hat. Keeps its insulating value when it's wet. It's a river gear that I have, and wear that as a cap at night if it's super cold. Not often, and then in really bad weather I'll use it during the day or around camp and whatnot. But generally I don't get into this bag until I'm at camp. I try to keep it locked up during the day. And I also keep an extra pair of socks for nighttime because my feet get cold, and I like to be warm. I want to be comfortable at night. My bag is a Nemo bag, and it's down. It's a 15-degree bag. I think that's a kind of generous rating. I've been out in 15 degrees and it was cold. Even wearing that, and then eventually I put on my puffy and my hat and everything else I had. It was sleeping by a glacier in Alaska. And, yeah, it was cold. But most of the temperature I expect to encounter on the AT, this will be fine, if not too much. I don't have a summer bag. I just tend to unzip it and either sleep outside of it or put it over my feet or something like that. So I just kind of regulate my thermostat using the zipper and my amount of coverage. I used to have a very compact, lightweight 32-degree bag. It was a MSR Phantom, I think it was. And man, that thing compressed down to here. And I was so impressed. Like, it was smaller than my Nemo pad. And I thought, oh, I have so much room in my pack. And then I realized I got a lot of room in my pack. I don't need it to be that small. And the thing was so snug, I couldn't sleep. I'm a big guy, and I filled it up, and I could barely move without having to wrestle my way around. Certainly couldn't move around in it. This has got that hourglass shape that Nemo likes to make, and man, it's super comfortable. I sleep great. Sleep great for camping. Some nights I sleep great. What else we got here? So my gear bag, I tend to go gear light. I do like to carry this little chamois towel. It's nice for wiping down the floor of the tent if any water comes in when you're setting up in the rain. And I try to keep that away from my night gear. I keep it in with my other cooking gear and whatnot. This is my cooking gear, this titanium cup. So I use this. It's got a little lid in here somewhere. And all of my meals are boiled water meals, or I'm eating them cold. But I don't like to eat everything cold. I'm not one of those guys that'll soak a mountain house dinner all day and then eat it cold at night. I do like some warm food at night, but that's enough to cook and boil water. I don't eat out of that. I drink my tea out of that in the morning, and I pour the boiling water into the mountain house or whatever bag, or a Ziploc bag, and eat my food and eat right out of that, because then I've got a trash bag with a zip top on it if it's mountain house, or if it's a Ziploc bag. And then I can store other trash in there as well, and it's zipped up, keeps some of the odors from getting out and attracting critters and whatnot. Mornings I generally have oatmeal. So I eat oatmeal out of a bowl, which I've left. It's just a regular plastic bowl. You have to trust me on that. I guess I must have left it on the shelf upstairs. Eat that, pour the last little bit of my tea in there, swirl it around, kind of wipe it out. Sometimes I'll take a sheet of toilet paper if it's a little sticky, and clean toilet paper, and wipe it out, throw that in my trash can, zip it up, and that's good. So plastic bowl, plastic spoon, boiled water, and MSR Stove, people just have religious beliefs about stoves. I don't that much. I've had this one for a number of years. It's worked great. Have no problems with it. Pretty reliable. Fuel's pretty easy to get. Tend not to use a lot of it. Like I say, I don't do a lot of cooking and extended cooking. And then, it just attaches to one of this. I usually, on backpack trips, take the smaller one. I happen to have this one on the shelf today, so I threw it in here as an example. And the last gear in here is my my headlamp. It's a Petzl rechargeable. Get pretty good battery life out of this thing. Usually lasts me for a full trip, at least 4 or 5 days. Sometimes a lot longer, depending on the amount that I'm using it. I don't use them a whole lot. I'm either, it's either daytime, sun goes down and I'm down, I'm asleep. If I'm up, I'm using the light of my phone. I'm working on the phone for some reason or whatnot. So don't hit this too hard, but this is nice. It's lightweight, got a great beam, a couple of different settings. It's got the red light so you don't blind your friends around the campfire. It's a nice piece of equipment. Happy with it. First one I got didn't work so well. They stood behind it, got me a new one. There's my other socks. Let's see. It's all my extra clothes bag. What goes in there? So the extra clothes I carry is a pair of lightweight gloves. I hike warm. Once I'm moving, the furnace gets going. I don't need a lot of warm clothes when I'm moving. So that's why I keep my hat in there. This hat, if it gets cold, it's nice. It's a rain hat. I like that better than the hood of my rain jacket. It's been with me a long time, and it's a bomber little hat. Keeps me warm, keeps me dry. It's a outdoor research hat. You get them in REI, other places. So I don't carry a pair of spare long pants or a pair of shorts or anything. I always hike in long pants to keep the poison ivy off my legs, from which I'm deathly allergic. So I carry a pair of rain pants as a spare. Sometimes I'll use these at camp. On laundry day, I'll wear just these when I'm washing everything else. But generally they stay in my pack. I don't like to hike in them. They're too warm. Unless it's driving rain and it's really cold. So it's got to be cold enough to justify putting these guys on. I've generally hiked myself dry with body heat. But I have them, and I bring them along as my extra pants. Let's see what else. I like these ex officio boxers. Get them at REI. I found these to be great. They don't stink. I don't get chafing. I've tried a lot of other different ones. These things work well. I've heard other people have good reports about other kinds of clothes. Those work for me. Ex officio briefs. Warm leather. I always wear the base layer. It's quick dry. These Columbia polyester shirts. Polyfiber. There's no cotton in my pack. It's either wool or polyfiber. Same thing for this. It's a medium weight. If I wear these 2 layers, this, my puffy, and my rain jacket, that's pretty bomber. That'll keep me down to moving around in freezing weather. Sustained freezing weather. That's going to be a little cold, but then I'm going to be moving, and that'll generate some heat. And if it's worse than that, man, I stay home. I'm an Arizona boy. On my feet, I bring an extra pair of toe socks, and EG toe socks, crew length, with some darn tough socks over the top of that. That's a combination I've used for years, and I never get blisters unless my feet get dirty. So I try to keep my feet clean, particularly sand grains. Sand grains between the toes, and it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get blisters. So keep your feet clean, 2 pairs of socks, and you're good to go. Almost forgot about the upper compartments in my pack. I keep some of my other gear. Let's see here. My first aid kit. So in here I've got some parachute cord for hanging bags, a bear bag and whatnot. What else do I got in here? I don't carry a lot of first aid gear, particularly unless I'm somewhere very remote. AT is not a remote hike. There's going to be roads a couple of times a day in most places. And your basic first aid is call for help, and help's never that far away compared to like the Alaskan bush, where you're a day-long plane ride and 4 or 5 days of hiking away from the nearest person of any kind. So don't need to bring as much for this. I do carry some soap. Worried about norovirus. Full-size toothbrush. I'm not one of those ultralight guys, as you can guess. But I do carry a small tube of toothpaste, a little bit of sunscreen for my nose and ears. Everything else stays covered up with the outfit that I like to wear. There's my Garmin, my emergency tool. I like this. Much more reliable than cell coverage. Use this thing in a lot of places. Plus, my wife can track me where I'm going. I can log my tracks and whatnot, and do a lot of other fun stuff with it. So that's a pretty cool piece of equipment. My first aid stuff is I carry a little bit of dishwasher liquid to help wash off poison ivy oils, some Advil, usually Advil PM. I'll put it in the same bottle there to help me sleep at night if I need to. What else? An extra lighter. Nail clippers, good for taking out ticks, good for taking out here, cactus spines and other things, pokey things, but also to keep your toenails clipped, which is another good way to keep the blisters away. Nice piece of equipment to have. Yeah, it's an ounce or two. And, you know, floss. Only floss the ones you want to keep, my dentist says. So I do. The other stuff I like to keep up here in the top pocket is my rain jacket. I use this REI rain proof. None of this rain resistant stuff. That's just garbage. It's just a wet piece of cloth after a little bit. This thing is rain proof. It keeps the rain out. Love it. What else we got in here? Oh, water filter. You know, I've tried so many different kinds of water filters, pumps and chemicals and pills and whatnot, and I got something to hate in all of them. So last Christmas, the salesman talked me into this little bad boy, the Seeker water storage. I don't know if you can hear the coyotes howling again out there. It's a little bag. I have this, and I'll also carry along another water bottle. It is in here. Generally don't use this kind. I'll generally use like an old Gatorade bottle, something like that, because it's lighter. But I wanted to have something in there for the show here. This thing, filter into it, drink, good to go. Pack cover that I mentioned, all important TP, easy access, not a full roll. Bill Bryson, if you've seen that movie, Robert Redford goes to the woods and he's got this roll of toilet paper. I'm like, dude, how long do you expect him to be out? And what kind of problems do you expect to be having? Yeah, I put it in a Ziploc bag. Man, this is mountain gold here. You want to keep it dry. That's it. That's my gear. If you got comments, comment. Happy to hear from you, suggestions and whatnot. I'm sure I'll be learning more. I've got a lot of backpacking miles in, so I like this system. But, you know, every time I'm out, I see something else and go, oh, that's a good idea. I should try that. So feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks for listening.